on with their days, but we're going to start with the treasurer's report with Richard.
This is our annual treasurer's report for the fiscal period April 1st, 2018 through March 31st, 2019. The balances that I'm going to read are a combined balance of both our checking account and our PayPal account. So we'll start with the income. The combined income for that fiscal period is $11,899.70. Income sources, we have membership that raised $2,531.82. Fundraisers, $6,118, and donations, $43.98, giving us a total income for last year of $8,693.80. Expenses for the Lake Association. Liability insurance, $2,443.50. LOLA programs, and that includes buoys, water quality, boating inspections, public access, and cleanups. $1,755.47. Membership, fees, subscriptions, postage, newsletters, $687.22. Donations made by the Lake Association, $500, and that was to the fireworks committee. And fundraising costs, we spent $2,667.64 for Dragon on the Lake, lighted boat parade, and so on. So our cook-off, barbecue. Our total expenses were $8,053.83. That left us a combined PayPal and checking account balance of $12,539.67. And I would say it was a good year, and especially it's allowed us to move ahead with the buoy program, updating chains and buoys. Any questions? And that concludes the report. Jerry?
As far as membership is concerned, we just started our membership drive, and it's out on Facebook. If you haven't liked us on Facebook, please do. That's a great way to keep on top of what we're doing, and when we're doing it, that would be a good way to communicate with us as well. If you have a question, you can submit a question through Facebook, and one of us will get back to you. So right now we're just at the beginning of our membership drive, and hopefully it'll go on. We've gotten a lot of response through the Facebook update that we did. Most of those folks are paying with PayPal, and that's fine. It's really great because it's really convenient, and you don't have to spend all those high dollars with postage. It's relative to water safety. We got the buoys out. You're going to see a nice look on the buoys. We ordered 6 new ones this year. All of our chains and our hardware will all replaced with stainless steel this year. Our lake just eats our chain that we had out there. We were using hot dip galvanized, and we just couldn't stay ahead of the corrosion. So we bought stainless steel, and hopefully that's going to work. We also retired some of our mooring for the buoys, and we had some that we had made up years ago, and they were just too dangerous to handle. They stood about this tall, they were about that big around, and they had a piece of a 1/2-inch re-rod. And the 1/2-inch re-rod was for the purpose of grabbing them and moving them around, but unfortunately they were very tippy. So we retired those, and we went to a brand new style, and we hope that's going to work out good for us. If you see any problems with any of our buoys, the buoys sometimes have been known to migrate around the lake. Some people maybe hook them with their boat anchor or whatever, and sometimes they get dragged a few feet. So if you see something like that, just put it on Facebook, and we'll get right back out there. We try to make a tour routinely to go out and check the locations of them, but things do happen on the water. The reason we had to replace 6 of our buoys was due to the high damage to our buoys. And we bought an extra heavy-duty buoy when we bought them. And that be a buoy buddy. It's got the whole history of our buoys on there. And it's an interesting read. A lot of people don't realize it, but if you get run over our buoy, there's a good chance your prop's going to get tangled up in that chain. And if it does, the chain's going to win. The prop's not going to win. So, and a lot of guys are running stainless steel props now, so I would be very wary of hitting that. We did have a problem a couple of years ago with people being able to see them at night. We had put lights on. Well, when we put the lights on, the batteries were wearing out way too soon, so we replaced all the batteries this year, and we went with a battery that's got 4 times the life, so we're hoping that it's going to get us through the dark hours of the evening, so at least for the night. So any questions on those, feel free to ask me. It is not legal to rent your dock. If you rent your dock, you are under the Marine Act. And the DEQ, DNR, if they find out about it, are going to ask you to cease and desist. More importantly, your insurance does not cover you. Your homeowner's insurance. If your renter gets hurt on your property, you're going to be liable all by yourself. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover it. They're just going to wash their hands of it. So whatever you make on your rental may be washed out with the consequences of somebody getting hurt. So, any questions for me? By the way, I'm jury. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, good evening.
Yes.
I think this is like LOLA, official LOLA meetings are like church. This is as far in the back as you can, show up late. But I just want the record to reflect, I did recruit 2 people on the way here, and they both live on the lake, and they probably will even pay their dues tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces. Good to see you all. I'm here to answer any questions that really you don't probably want to hear from me. And just as it relates to the lake, we approved the same funding that we've approved the last several years. We provide patrol on 2 lakes, Lake Orion and then also Lake Voorhees, and then they pay, the residents over there actually pay. Currently, there's no, outside of what your taxes that are allocated for the patrols pay for, there's no other additional expense to this association or the lake owners. You know, I don't know, we didn't really talk, I can really answer questions about anything. If anybody has questions about anything that's going on in the community, yeah.
There's a ZBA meeting coming up on June 10th on Cushing Road property, and there's 7 different variances being requested. And this house is going to be within 6 feet of the lake, the deck is going to be within 6 feet of the lake when it's all said and done on the one corner. And the house is going to be 44% larger than the calculation should be for a lot of that size. And it's just really frustrating because we've had situations before the CDA before, and no matter what people tend to say, they always get approved for encroachments on property lines, encroachment on the lake setback. We're not protecting our lake like we should be. And it's really frustrating when you see this happening over and over again. ZBA turns a deaf ear to us relative to setbacks on the lake. And I don't know what we can do about it.
They don't approve everybody. ZBA is an independent body. There are residents that live here. And if you're interested in serving on the ZBA, Planning Commission, or Township Board you have to be elected to. But the ZBA and Planning Commission, I appoint them. But they're an independent body. They don't answer to me. It's on purpose. It's like the checks and balances. And I would not say they approve everybody. I mean, they have to, there's rules that they follow, but they certainly do receive public input at all these meetings. So if you want to express your opinion, if you live within 300 feet, you'll actually get a certified letter if someone's trying to get any variance. But if you live outside of that, you have to either watch our agendas or, you know, look at the LOLA Facebook page, I'm assuming. where that information is out. So, you know, if you've never been to a ZBA meeting, they're really interesting. You can watch one on TV first, maybe. Depends on the case, but you can go to the meetings. They're open meetings. And I would say that the ZBA does listen to community input. They don't approve everything, so I would disagree with you. If you are opposed to this, you should show up and they'll give you an opportunity to talk to them about it. You know, we're focused. We have a lot of projects going on around town, not related to the lake, but garbage is a big topic. Road construction is a big topic. Development in general is a topic. Parks is something that we're really interested in right now. You all passed the parks millage, so we're upgrading a lot of the amenities out of our parks. We have so many natural resources, it's pretty awesome. We have not only just the 42 lakes that are larger than 5 acres, but one of the new stats is the national average is about 10 park acres per 1,000 residents in a community. And Southeast Michigan is about 12 park acres per 1,000 residents. In Orion, we have like 142, and we're like 10 times the national, 14 times the national average. So we got a lot of amenities. We're trying to get people to use our parks. You all are using the lake mostly, which you should. That's where your investment is. So I'd be willing to answer any questions. We didn't really rehearse this. I'm going to let these guys talk about, you know, the plan for patrols and answer any sort of questions about how many times is Matt Pfeiffer going to run over the no-wake buoy by George Haley's Bay. And all those good things. Any questions about anything? Yeah.
How much more time do we have left on our set?
Good question. I think it's 3 more years.
It's either 3 or 4.
So the good news is, the question was, how much more time do you have on the SAD? Everybody understands you pay a special assessment for the weed treatment. Every lake owner pays into that fund. The good news is, the first one was really difficult to pass. When it comes back up, when it gets to its expiration, assuming someone that's currently a part of it comes to my office and says we want to renew it, the renewal is like much easier. It's a renewal. The board was unanimously in favor of the first SAD. I think it's important, especially because the people that are asking for it are you all who live on the lake. It's not us dictating to you. So I don't know if you guys talk about renewing that or it's still.
Oh yeah, we're going to renew it, and Julie wants us to start 2 years before it actually expires.
Wow.
Because she indicated that it wasn't quite as simple. So,
I mean, it's not simple, but it's a lot easier.
I hope
to
so.
renew. Yeah.
Because we don't have the horsepower.
I understand. We'll try it out. Julie is in my office. She administers all the special assessment districts, which we have not just for lakes, for dirt roads, all kinds of stuff. So, any other questions about anything?
One more. Go ahead.
Who enforces ZBA decisions on property? I'm looking at, there was one place on the lake that I was made aware of that ZBA, the guy wanted to convert his boathouse into a resident kind of thing. They wouldn't give him permission, so he just asked for permission to upgrade his boathouse, and they said, okay. Now you go by, there is actually no entryway for a boat to go into that boat.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
It's right near Dino's place, actually.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. And actually, we've had other people ask us about that. Ordinance enforcement in our office enforces the decisions of the ZBA. That's Al Daisley, who's a retired Bluefield Hills police officer, and Kirk Larson. Those are our two, and then our building official is Dave Goodlow. Dave has looked at that and has, there's a whole file about this thick on that, and they're in compliance right now.
They're in compliance. They parked their boats in there now. They got rid of the bathrooms.
Don't have to park boats in a boathouse for it to be a boathouse. That's something we learned. How many of the boathouses on the lake have boats that park in them?
I know one.
Besides Tonino's does. I mean, most of them are for the skinny boats from 1940.
Yeah.
So if you said it like, we've looked at it and it's not living space, and they followed the orders of. They did get a violation for doing what they did. They had to put it back like it was, and they're good for now.
Thank you.
If you see someone living in it, let us know. Yeah.
Is that Al Daisy would be the enforcement arm of temporary docks. It was kind of a Jerry. There's a
I
temporary
know
dock
that.
that's been there for 3, maybe 4 years.
He has a permit with the DEQ, DNR or DEQ, Dan? DNR. He has a permit, it's been renewed every year, they give it to him. They have received a few complaints because I called and asked about it. I talked to that owner, I know who he is, I know him actually. And his plan is to remove the dock like in days. He's got all his house is done. So, but he did have the proper permit, we checked on it several times, he did follow the procedure. And we agree. I mean, I would used to call him and yell at him because I was more worried about it in the winter when snowmobiles are on the lake. You know, so.
Plus the fact I just want to go through.
I do too. I used to like going to that part too. All right. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but really, you guys don't want to talk about that stuff tonight.
Next, we're gonna have Steve Hanson from PLM.
I did bring some of the reports from last year. I don't think you've even seen this yet, but I've got a few of the reports. Basically, so we're the management company for the lake. Primarily what we do is the exotic plant management. So plants that aren't supposed to be in the lake, they come from somewhere else. We try to keep those in check so you can enjoy the lake. What they say, the water quality in this lake is really good. The same type of second depth measurements we get, about 10 feet in the spring, last spring, and in the fall we had about 15 feet. The nutrient levels are quite low. I think we had, 10 to 13 micrograms per liter. The water quality is really good on the lake. That came up the wake boats. I don't know if people know this, and it's something that I've been kind of exploring over the last few years because we're starting to have, on some lakes south of here, harmful algal blooms that were created in lakes that we never had problems with planktonic algae, and then we started getting microcystins and anabina and some other species that can actually produce toxins under certain conditions. And we had one lake that got shut down. It's a private lake, about 150 acres, and one of the things, and I talked to the people, there's actually a private wealthy community, and then there's a homeowner association, and they kind of work together. There is a public access on the lake, but the one half of the lake is a no wake, no gas motors. Those people can't own it, and the other side have whatever they want. So it's a funny mix out there. But it turns out that we started to have issues with water clarity, started to get these harmful algal blooms. And in talking to them, one of the things that came up, because I was on the lake one day and a wakeboard boat came by me. And you can hear the cars in the parking lot from me. But the wake was so big from that boat that it almost dumped me in a 19-foot skiff that I was in. And you can see the effects of it on the shoreline and the erosion and other stuff that it does. But once I started having these algal blooms, it reminded me that I could see the force that those boats have, and they sit so low in the water that in 9-10 feet of water, they can easily churn up the bottom and resuspend those sediments, resuspend those nutrients. And it had really one boat on that lake that was out on the weekends and some evenings, I think actually did a lot of damage to that lake. So their lake actually got shut down 2 years ago. Like they had to close it for swimming and things like that. We monitored it. The next year it wasn't so bad, but that person voluntarily took that boat off the lake. And this year it's back to where it was, great water quality. So those things can really change the environment. Think 150 acre lake, that one boat, but when you see what they can do, I mean the thrust that they have to create that wake can blow the bottom sediments up. So that was kind of interesting, something I just wanted to mention. A lot of this of Lake Orion is in that 9 to 10 foot range in some of those bays and things. But the one thing that Lake Orion has for is it has a lot of aquatic vegetation, which buffers that you don't have a lot of bare ground out there. So that does buffer it. And one of the things you mentioned about the water clarity getting better, that can be a direct effect of the amount of starry stonework that's in the water too, because all of the Cara, which is native, Nitella, those things get their nutrients from the water column. They're basically sponges, filters. So as the starry stonework expanded from the launch bay where it was initially and has encompassed a vast majority of the lake, and we haven't really explored to see how deep it goes. We know in a lot of areas it gets to the drop off and you know, that's kind of the, once it gets below 15 feet or something. I don't know if it's there now, but we're finding in some of these lakes in 20 feet, we're raking and pulling up starry stonework. It's not as robust as it is in the shoreline areas, but it's there, it can persist. So the starry stonework can actually be filtering out water, making the water clarity better, which also means more plant growth. So it's kind of a cyclical thing where, you know, the more sunlight that gets in, the more plants in algae. Starry stonework is actually a macroalgae, but the more that these things can grow. So it's a dynamic thing when you're talking about how all of these species and water quality interact. The report that if you're interested, grab a copy. I don't know if I put it on the website, but it just goes through the water quality stuff from last year, the vegetation surveys that we do, the treatments that were performed last year, basically what we were targeting, about how many acres. This season, April ran right through May, so as you mentioned, things really kind of got off to a slow start here. We did a treatment at I think it was May 20th or something. The curly leaf and some of those really early season species were up at that time. Hopefully we caught it before it really takes off. I didn't get a look at the lake when I came around, but we're planning to be back on the 17th, I'm guessing. We usually are about a month apart, so we'll be back doing that. And I don't know if there's anything else that I meant to mention, but yes?
$1 million question. Is there any relief in sight for starry stonework?
You know, honestly, not that I'm aware of. You know, there was that conference that was held this late winter. We were part of that. You know, you get a lot of people that talk about a lot of things and have these grand ideas, and you know, some of these consultants and other folks who have never actually applied anything in their life. A lot of things they talked about, we've already been through. You know, we tried the combing crystal in the northern bays. We've tried the flumioxin. We've tried just about every combination of things that we know will target it. Some things work in some lakes, they don't work in others. They might work in part of the lake and not another part, based on either water chemistry or the sediment composition or just strange things. So it's really difficult to say. Now we have, because it is becoming such a bigger issue, it's not just this little section of the Midwest right now, you know, Minnesota, Wisconsin, it's infecting a lot of areas. There's probably going to be a lot more interest from manufacturers to come up with something that will target it. And even for milfoil, there's a new product that was out last year that we got some experience with last year, and we're doing some treatments this year. That if you treat more than 10 acres, I guarantee you for 3 years you won't have it back in that area. So, you know, it kind of spurred with the hybrid milfoils and things that we're seeing, and difficulty with control. You know, manufacturers jumped on that and found a niche where they can hopefully do well from that. So it's always changing. But right now, I don't know if there's anything in the works for starry stonework. It is just beat it down and try to keep it out of the, you know, so you can use the lake and stop doing as much damage. You know, what's interesting though is even in the areas that we have been treating, even throughout the season, you'll be able to see after we do a treatment that the starry stonework, and you'll see these brighter clumps. And the Cara, which was always normally there, will always try to respond in those areas. And I just think it's interesting that, you know, we're targeting the Cara. It's the same thing at the same rates with the same product. And the starry stonework, usually doesn't completely die off because the mats are so thick, you're burning the top off of it. But when you do get it low enough, the carrot is always trying to come back in those areas. So it's encouraging that if something does come along that is really effective, that the carrot is going to take back over and things will be good. So I think that's all I have. I'm glad the officers left before me, so they don't follow me out.
See, the other thing I was going to say, some of my neighbors know that I was part of it. We got the sand in place, and they accused me of poisoning the lake. And I said, well, you guys are very professional. You're very careful. You don't try to make the lake into a bathtub or anything like that. And I said, frankly, when I was doing the research on my own for Starry Stonework, the data said that Starry Stonework was going to be up to like 13 to 15 feet thick and up to 30 feet of water. And if you didn't treat Lake Orion in some way that made sense, the lake would basically become like a green Brillo pad, and there'd be no fish, no amphibians, nothing, because nothing can get through that stuff. It's so thick. And that's what worries me a little bit about the sand continuing in place. Is people don't seem to realize that you're actually keeping it down, not killing the lake.
And I don't like to play on people's fears, but you know what it was like in your bay, Jerry. It's 10 or 11 feet, and that hole out in front of you, it was about this far below the surface.
Exactly.
So it has the potential, and the fact that it has on the native plant community, and that maybe that got lost in my conversation. But when we're treating this exotic species, and I see the native plants coming back in there, that makes me happy. Might not make residents happy, but that's what we're shooting for. And the products that we're applying, even the copper, as bad as Rapis copper gets, there are a lot of options for Starry Stonework. And is it true that some of that may get bound up in the sediments? It's inevitable. I think that you would have to apply a lot for a lot of years to get a level that's really detectable beyond what the background copper is in the sediments. And even then, it would take a pH of like 2 for it to release and be available. Because copper can be toxic at certain levels to invertebrates and other things like that. So when people talk a lot about the copper being in the sediments, like if it ever is to the point it gets released, that's the last thing you're going to worry about, because basically you're going to have stomach acid for water out there. So nothing's perfect, but not doing anything and just letting Starry Stonework take over everything is probably the worst option. The impacts it has on the native plant community, the fisheries, it's so.
So they haven't Indian look like that too?
Yes.
Jerry, Indian has actually had it since I think 2006. MSU actually had a study thing out there. I'm pretty sure that's where it came from. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah, so unfortunately I always use this lake as what can happen. So I hate to tell you that, but I mean it went from being, kind of tucked in the north area in a couple of those bays to just all of a sudden it was almost like over winter. It was 75% of the shoreline. There's still areas in the south end that are pretty void of it, and a lot of Cara and stuff, which is just good. So.
That being said, it'd be nice to have a whole bunch of those PhD students out there studying, seeing what they can do with it.
But from a lake resident's perspective, they don't care if it's Starry Stonework or Cara or what it is. They see stuff in the lake, and that makes them upset. But when I go down there, it's like, oh, this is Cara, good, good. So, okay, any questions? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.